Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for September 16th through 22nd, 2024. So we are in eclipse season, and this is something that I can't exactly remember, talked about at length last week. It's good to resurface it because eclipses are like one of the major focal points in astrology. You want to learn astrology, learn eclipses, learn Saturn. Those are going to be like your bread and butter, so to speak. But we are in eclipse season, and this is a season that happens every 6 months, like clockwork. And it means that we either have a new moon that's a solar eclipse or a full moon that is a lunar eclipse. It's never the other way around. Sometimes we have three eclipses in a season, but we have our regular just two in this season. What is worth noting about this season is that this season brings us our first eclipse in Pisces. So if you've been paying attention to the astrology, we've been having eclipses back and forth between Aries and Libra since April of 2023. So that means that we've been in this story arc over the last year and a half that has been bringing up the archetype of Aries and Libra. Even if you're scratching your head and saying, I'm not a Libra, I'm not an Aries, why is this important to me? Just your friendly reminder that you have all 12 signs in your astrology. And even that, those two signs, they're archetypes. They are archetypes of life. You have relationships, even if you're like, no, I'm single, I don't want a relationship. Unless you live alone in the woods, you have relationships with the birds, for example. So we have relationships, we have connections, we are human beings, we are naturally social creatures, we have family. I know that that's a complicated subject. That's another form of relationship. And then Aries says that we also need to have our individuality. We need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet, to stand up for ourselves, to go after what we want, to have a strong sense of desire. So that's been a lot of the, let's say, thematic mix in the astrology for the past year and a half. And of course, with your own personal astrology, maybe it's a different story. So because we have collective time, and then we have personal time. And personal time is set according to your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace. But now we are going into a new story, and this is a story that actually is going to take us all the way through 2025 and 6, and we will have our final eclipse. It's a partial lunar eclipse in, I think, like February 22nd or 20th of 2027. I know I say that fast 3 times, 2027. So we are on the cusp of a new story. And this is a story that may be evident, maybe not evident. It's one of the maddening things about astrology is that it seems to make more sense in hindsight than at the moment. So pay attention to what's happening right now, the conversations that you're having, even the conversations that you're having with yourself, the mood, the feeling, the events, and how they might be thematically related to a larger story that is winding through your life into 2026 and even into the beginning of 2027. Whatever the story is, Saturn has brought your attention to that story since also 2023, because in March of 2023, Saturn went into Pisces for the first time in 30 years. The planets, they move. Simple look at your own birthday. The sun returns to where it was in the sky every year, God willing. But other planets take different cycles. Jupiter is 11, almost 12 years. Saturn is 29.5 years. My point is that we have certain planets that we need to pay attention to. They're slow moving. They act like the major hand on the clock. And so Saturn has been saying to each and every one of us since March of 2020, I think it was like March 7th of 2023, we need to pay attention to Pisces. This is both. We need to pay attention to Pisces as an archetype, as an energy, as a reflection of life. That's what the archetypes are. We also need to pay attention to where Pisces is in our own astrology. And paying attention is one thing, taking action, building, constructing, recalibrating, realizing something maybe isn't working, or having to really push towards a goal and ambition. So I'll come back to that in a moment, but before I get too far along, I just want to quickly reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium, presently located in the rolling hills of central Maryland. Every week we gather live to look at the astrology, and you hear me say every week the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. Do not forget that you are a participant. The astrology, there's the astrology, but then there's your life and the stories that have been happening since day one, and that is going to be a lens into your own experience with the eclipses. So that's for you to see how these things are relevant to your own life, and of course how you can work with this. But that's the thing about eclipses, is that it's the energy of time. And time is sort of outside of our control. I cannot change the weather. I cannot change time. I cannot go back in time. I cannot go forward in time. And so we have eclipses. They really do mark the hour. So I know I see some familiar faces in the chat. Like, how are you all feeling? How are you all feeling with the fact that we are in eclipse season? Maybe you're just like, I don't know. I don't feel anything. That is perfectly acceptable answer. Maybe, for those that are watching on the replay, how are you feeling? Sort of the shift of the winds, this energy of Pisces. And that's the thing about Pisces, is it's such a subjective energy. It's the last sign of the zodiac. It talks about our inner life, meaning the life that you have with yourself, nobody else. And if we take it one step further, how that connects us to something beyond this world. Whatever you want to call it, whatever's outside this world. Maybe you don't think there's anything. I don't know. It's up to you. That's the thing. It's your choice. So that's for you to see where Pisces, that sort of energy and archetype shows up into your life. So let's go back to our friend Saturn. So since March of 2023, Saturn has been in Pisces. It's like this major hand on the clock, and it's saying, pay attention to this. And of course, we're going to have our own experiences depending on our own astrology, but there is this collective energy. And I've talked about this before. It's very different with Saturn in Pisces than it was with Saturn in Aquarius from March of 2020 all the way to March of 2023, Saturn in Capricorn. This was, goodness gracious, end of December of 2017 all the way to March of 2020. Except for a little bit from the summer 2020, because Saturn was in signs that talked about our tangible reality, our world, structures, movement, organization. I'm saying this very, sort of neutrally. Saturn going to Pisces, Saturn is now in a sign that's inherently immaterial. It's emotional, it's spiritual. It's not my emotions and my feelings. It's the emotions and feelings that connect us all as humanity. I realize that is a big statement, but that's Pisces. That's Pisces. It is the last sign of the zodiac, so it stands as the bridge between one cycle and the next cycle. When the sun gets into Pisces, I realize this is the northern hemisphere. It might be, and I know we have people in the southern hemisphere that are listening. But when we get to the sun in Pisces, we are getting to the belly, the belly of winter. I realize that's Aquarius season, when the sun crosses the midpoint of Aquarius. But we are in a time where it's about coming to the end of a cycle, coming to the end of a growing cycle, and preparing for something new. So it's a little bit of the irony, because we have these energies of the eclipses in Aries and Libra, new beginnings, action, initiative, but Pisces is about letting go. It's about going within and cultivating something that's very personal, very private. Also, Pisces gets into these existential and spiritual questions. Why am I here? What is the meaning and purpose of my life? I know, big questions, and you're the only person that can answer that. And that's maybe on some level what it means to be a human being, is to ponder and to search and to look outside of ourselves, but also to look within and to try to make sense of our life. And that, again, is very subjective. So we have this full moon, and it's a lunar eclipse, but it's putting into the spotlight not just everything that I've been talking about with Pisces, but putting into the spotlight everything that Saturn has been bringing up hey, pay attention to this, since March of 2023. So something, and that's the thing about this lunar eclipse, it's not fully conjunct Saturn. It's certainly in the ballpark. I think Saturn is at 16 or 17 Pisces at the moment. The full moon lunar eclipse is going to be at 25 degrees. So that's less than 8 degrees. Gosh, I can't do math right now. So this eclipse is saying everything that we've been thinking about, now we need to make it real. Now we need to be concrete, which is kind of ironic because Pisces is inherently not concrete. It's not tangible. So this might be something that's real and concrete, but on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. Again, see how this is relevant to your life. The other thing to keep in mind is that other than the fact that Pisces deals with faith, not the faith of religion, but the faith that we find within, it's also very close, 3 degrees away from Neptune. It's really easy to forget about Neptune because Neptune, by its nature, is in the background. It sort of acts like the moon. It's very atmospheric. It pulls back the veil between this world and the next world. And Neptune has been in Pisces. I know we got 2 planets in Pisces right now. Neptune's actually been there since February of 2012. I know, that's a long time, but Neptune spends 14 years in a zodiac sign. It's quite a long period of time compared to Pluto that can spend anywhere from 11 years to 30 years in a zodiac sign. But anyway, so Neptune is not concrete, and Neptune, again, is atmospheric. It's in the background. It's in our dreams. It's in our feelings. It can pull us like a riptide. It can take us away from ourselves, and then at the same time, it can open us up, and even open up our heart and open up to our higher self. So we have a lot of mixed messages in this Pisces lunar eclipse. How do we make things real? How do we make things concrete? How do we pull back the veil? How do we see what's beyond this world? How do we shift our perspective and our consciousness? Neptune is, unlike Saturn, an evolutionary planet. Its job is to get us to grow and evolve, sometimes by any means possible. And it's sometimes that way of Neptune doing its work is by getting us to feel our humanity, getting us to feel our interconnectivity, because we are. And it can bring up big emotions. Maybe we have big emotions this week. Eclipses have an energy of magic to them. They can bring things into your life. They can open the door. People can leave your life at the same time. Sometimes that is magic. It's very welcomed. So it's for you to look for the magic, and definitely Pisces is about magic, and that's where we are straddling this divide into 2027, 2026, 2027, the divide between heaven, Pisces, symbolically, and earth, Virgo, because we will have our first eclipse in Virgo next March. I think it's like the 15th of March or something. And Virgo is a very practical sign, and it's very rational, very analytical, and it's kind of at the opposite ends of Pisces. Doesn't mean that these are 2 signs that can't get along. They just occupy different space, but they also support each other. These are also 2 signs that are very driven to find a place in the world that feels meaningful and purposeful. These are 2 signs that are about education on some level, just education on a very different level. It's not necessarily classroom education, although Virgo is classroom education, but Pisces is, what does it all mean? How does it enrich my life? How does it enrich my spirit? How does it enrich my soul? And then these are also 2 signs that are the helping and healing signs. And typically when they are very prominent in somebody's chart, or even the 12th or the 6th houses, these are people that have a strong need to help and to heal others in some way or profession. So these are just different ways to look at this dynamic between Virgo and Pisces. That's actually where my nodes are. I have a south node in Pisces. This full moon lunar eclipse is going to be on my south node. And then I have a north node in Virgo. And if you are like, what are the nodes? The nodes, N-O-D-E-S, these are these 2 points in the sky that make eclipses happen. So we know that we're going to have eclipses because the new moon or the full moon is within a certain degree of the ecliptic and where the lunar nodes are. On the other side of things, when you look to your own personal astrology, when you were born, you have the lunar nodes, getting a little bit off topic, but you have the lunar nodes in two signs of the zodiac. They're always opposite one another, and they act like a compass point for your life. That's the thing. Our life has structure, it has time, it has a time and space, but what's the purpose of our life? And sometimes the nodes can really hint at some of these deeper purposes of why we're here and what we're learning and what we're discovering in this lifetime. So, like I said, we have this Pisces. For those that are taking notes, it is a Pisces lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Pisces, and it will be at 10:35 p.m. Eastern. It is a partial eclipse, so it's only part of the moon will be eclipsed. That's not the right word. It will be that sort of cast that you see with a lunar eclipse. So we are then 2 weeks out from a solar eclipse. We'll have a solar eclipse in Libra on October 2nd. This will be at 10 degrees of Libra, and this will be our last eclipse in Libra for another 8 or 9 years. So with that said, and I meant to mention this sooner, the last time we had eclipses in Virgo and Pisces was 2015 and 2016. Previous to that was 2006, 2007. Before that, 1997, 1998. I could go back, but you get the idea. It has these full cycles of 18 and a half years. It has a half cycle of 9 years, and we did actually on September 16th of 2016, we did have a lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Pisces. So think back to those periods of your life. If you are older, you can even go another 9 years back. You can go, I think that takes us into the late 80s if I'm doing my math right, and to see what are the themes in your life. And so for me, because I have nodes in Virgo Pisces, maybe you do too, maybe you don't, it's fine. This could also be a dynamic period in your life. So eclipses, they open doors. They naturally can, pay attention to who is in the news. Suddenly, there's very often you'll see, oh, this person's a Pisces. Oh, this person's a Virgo. Sometimes we have their astrology, so we can see a little bit more. And then, just see what is coming in and out of your life and how this is announcing a new chapter of your life. The other thing that's going on this week, we will reach Libra season at the end of this week, the 22nd of September. We'll talk about this next week. We also have Venus going into Scorpio. We'll also talk about this next week. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in relationship to the eclipse is that Mercury, which is in Virgo presently, it is making an opposition to Saturn on Wednesday, the 18th. So this sort of brings the energy of the eclipse even into Wednesday. I mean, I would argue that the energy of the eclipse ripples out over a few days and then we revisit it at other periods. For example, when we were in June was 3 months before the eclipses to come. So maybe we saw a little bit of hints of things in June of 2024. But that said, Mercury opposite Saturn, at least on paper, is typically a no-nonsense aspect. It sort of demands accountability for us to make the adult decisions, for us to honor our commitments, and sometimes to say no when we need to say no, or even to say yes when we need to say yes. The other thing is that with Mercury opposite Saturn and Pisces, there is that sort of like emotional feel to all things. Maybe it's not such a cut and dry yes, no, maybe we need to listen to our heart, maybe we need to meditate, but again, it's for you to see how, responsibility and decisions and commitments are really highlighted for you this week. Also, I wanted to briefly talk about how I am doing a free presentation next week on September 24th. This is actually, I put it out in my newsletter. It is not astrology related, but then again, isn't everything astrology related? I'm doing an hour presentation on something called energetic sciences. It's something that I've been studying for 10 years, and I've been able to teach it for the last, 6 years. And in energetic sciences, you learn about energy, but not just the energy that you can touch and see, but also the energy that you can perceive. It's invisible energy. So we're going to learn about the fabric that connects us all and start to see that it's everywhere, because actually this energy, it's almost like a weaving. It connects all of us, and it's the support for life, and it's support for communication. And so we're going to learn some key themes about energetic sciences. And then this is all in advance of doing a 2-day intensive the weekend of October 5th and 6th. So link is in the show notes. I will probably put this also on my website for you to learn more and to join me for this free webinar. So if you want, it sounds very Piscean, very Neptunian, but it's very Virgo, I promise, so that you can learn how to shift your consciousness and your awareness to perceive the invisible reality that's around us, this sort of mesh, this weave, this weft that connects us all. So that's on the 24th of September. So there you go. Let's look at the astrology for each of the 12 zodiac signs, starting with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet, and it's still in Cancer. So how's it going? Because Cancer is a major sign for you. Cancer is your sign of home and family, its roots, its foundation. It's really bringing up perhaps a lot of emotions, primal feelings. Cancer is a sign that can, on some surface level, talk about home and family in your household, but also it can get into deeper emotions, the past and memories. Am I safe? Am I secure? Do I have enough? We are in the gate 2 weeks away from a lunar eclipse in Libra, and this puts the spotlight on relationships. And so this is actually going to be the last sign, the last eclipse in your relationship sign for quite a while, but it is bringing to a close, or at least starting to bring to a close, a very dynamic chapter of your life where relationships have been in the spotlight. How do you find the balance between your wants, your needs, and your desires, and the wants and needs and desires of other people? Maybe you've seen new relationships come into your life. Maybe you've seen relationships leave or even need to be reevaluated. With the energy of the eclipse, it is talking about your living situation, your household, home, and family, whether it's starting a family, whether you need to focus on family, whether there's duties and responsibilities to navigate. Venus, since the past, couple weeks, has been in Libra. So you've been getting in advance of this eclipse. So pay attention to conversations and events that have been happening throughout September, because this is the sort of presaging of the eclipse to come on October 2nd. That said, we have another eclipse. This one is tomorrow, September 17th, and it's in something called your 12th sign. We've talked about this quite a bit already, but here is the recap. Since March of 2023, you've had Saturn in Pisces. Saturn, for any sign of the zodiac, is like the major hand on the clock. It's where we need to focus. It's at the top of the hour. It's where we need to do our work. When it's in Pisces, when it's in the 12th, you've come to the end of your personal cycle, like a great cycle. I mean, like 30-year cycle, because the last time Saturn was in Aries, hey, that's you, that was 1996 and 7 and 8. So it's been a while. So this says that everything that you are experiencing right now, in addition to all the dynamic energy of the eclipses, at the same time, it's like coming to the end of something, needing to reevaluate the past, needing to look at what you're still holding on to, and on some level to let go, because you don't want to bring this stuff with you into the next cycle that begins May of 2025. Pisces is a very liminal, quiet, sometimes even tough space where you need to rest, you need to recoup yourself. So it also feels like maybe things are not happening, or they're happening behind the scenes, or maybe things are happening because it's the eclipses, or maybe it's both. You have to look beneath the surface. With this eclipse in the 12th, it is to honor if you need to let something go, if you need to rest, if you need to focus on your physical health as much as you need to focus on your spiritual health. That's the thing, especially with the eclipses to come in Virgo, that 2025 and even 2026 is about you trying to find the balance between your spiritual life and your human, your day-to-day duties and responsibilities. So this eclipse, especially with Mercury opposite Saturn, you need to make some decisions, some commitments. There's something that could be about accountability. It could be a need to really prioritize a very particular part of your life. And this is all in advance of that final eclipse in Libra to come in 2 weeks. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and Venus is wrapping up its time in Libra. And actually, Venus is going to go into Scorpio this week, although at the end of this week on September 22nd, so Sunday. When, first, Venus in Libra is presaging the solar eclipse to come on October 2nd. And what is Libra for you? It is your sign of health and wellness. It is your day-to-day duties and responsibilities. It's the part of you that needs to get your stuff together. You need to focus on, we all have, daily responsibilities. We have work, we have projects, we need to clean things out. Of course, you need to see how this is relevant to your own life, because maybe it's not health related. Maybe it's something else related. Maybe it's project organization, and maybe it's even service related. So Venus has been there, and it's in advance of this solar eclipse to come. So maybe you are seeing seeds, or even really truly seeing the eclipse in September versus October. But this is the last eclipse in this part of your chart for quite a while. That said, Venus will go into Scorpio, as I was saying earlier, and Scorpio is your relationship sign. So it says for the next 2 to 3 weeks, if I'm doing my math correctly, it is time to focus on relationships, other people. Other people means it's a social time. Other people means your primary relationships need attention. Maybe you need to sort of negotiate your time to make space for other people, for example. But then we have this eclipse, and while there is a big focus on socialness, especially when Venus goes into Scorpio, this lunar eclipse that we have tomorrow on September 17th, it spotlights friendships, community. Do keep in mind, and I want you to go back, Taurus, to March of 2023, because that's when Saturn went into the 11th, and I might have said this last week, hopefully delicately. Saturn can be a little brutal when it comes to friendships, because Saturn, for some people, not all people, it's like these are not really your friends, or these are not the people that are going to support you and be like the connection that you want for the next year, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, because that's the time scale that Saturn works with. So if you've seen Saturn clear some friends out, that the whole purpose is not for you not to have friends. The purpose is for you to build new friendships on a very different foundation. For some people, it's not really about people needing to clean out friendships. It's strengthening existing friendships. It's creating community. It's feeling like you have your place and you belong. And especially because of Pisces is a service sign, being of service in your community. With the eclipse that we have tomorrow, September 17th, it is in a way spotlighting a story that's already been there for a year and a half. Something wants to become real. There needs to be a decision. There needs to be a commitment. Maybe this is about community. Maybe this is about friendship. Maybe it's about something larger. It's about your place in the world, a social issue, a social cause, and feeling like you're really taking action and being a participant. Gemini, and we were talking about this last week. There's just a lot going on in your astrology. So how's it going, Gemini? Just a little temperature check-in. Why is a lot going on in your chart? Because Mercury, number one, your planet, it's in Virgo. Virgo is your sign of home and family. It says that on a surface level, this is a time to really, wait, am I doing my astrology? Yep, doing my astrology right. It's a time to focus on the things that really matter, your home environment, to really put down roots, to spend time with family, for example. But Mercury is also facing off with Saturn this week. And because Mercury governs you, it's like there's something that's happening in your life. And it may not be obvious, but Saturn typically is, we need to take things seriously. We need to see our limits. We need to honor our duties and responsibilities. We need to take a step up in the world. And maybe for some Geminis, it is an achievement. It is a recognition. Since March of 2023, you've had Saturn in your 10th sign of career. If it's not career, it's just growing up, growing older. It's duties and responsibilities that you have in your life, the pressure to really make something of yourself in whatever way that is relevant for you, of course. So this lunar eclipse that we're having on September 17th, it concretizes, it makes real something that's already been present in your professional life, your sense of duty and responsibility, your public life even as well. On some level, Gemini, over the last year and a half, Saturn has been asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't have an answer, but maybe this week Saturn is really pushing you to come to a more concrete answer. Is this where I'm going? Is this what I want? Is this in alignment with my higher good? The thing to keep in mind, Gemini, that in the background is Neptune. And Neptune has been in your 10th sign of career, your duties and responsibilities all the way since 2012. So Neptune in the mix also says that there's also a need to evolve. There's also a need to rise above something. There's also a need to look within and sometimes even look at the messy emotional side within. Again, that might not be relevant to every Gemini, but it's something that's worth pointing out. Finally, because Jupiter is a major planet in your astrology, it's square the eclipse, it's square Saturn. Jupiter is a career planet, Jupiter is a relationship planet. So this is one of those weeks that really puts you in the crossroads. Maybe it's clear, maybe it's obvious right now, maybe it will be clear and it will be obvious. Again, it's one of the maddening things about astrology is that it often makes sense in hindsight. So pay attention, Gemini, take notes, because your professional life, your home life is going to be a big focus even into the end of 2026. Cancer, the moon is your planet. So we got a lunar eclipse this week. A lunar eclipse is just another way of talking about a full moon that is within a certain amount of degrees of the ecliptic. That's a little bit of astronomy for you. What's Pisces? Well, here's the thing, Cancer. You are, of course, a Cancer. You have 11 other signs around you, and those 11 other signs represent parts of your life. It could be home, it could be career, it could be relationships, it could be health. Pisces is something called your 9th sign. And this is not everybody's 9th sign is Pisces, but this is the role of the 9th sign. It's a sign that's trying to get you to make sense of the world. And making sense of the world can be education. Maybe you've gone back for a degree. Maybe you are just getting a degree. Maybe you're getting a higher degree. Maybe you've seen the world and making your world bigger and trying to make sense of the world means getting on a plane. Maybe it's been a lot of travel the last year and a half. It's a little bit of a philosophical time for you because it's like you're trying to figure out, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What do you think is true? What's your faith? What's your mission? What's your purpose? It's for you to see, of course, how this is relevant to your own life. Because in the 9th is where we develop a strong sense of inner compass and a sense of right and wrong. Saturn has been there since March of 2023, so this has been a major focus over the last year and a half. Something has wanted to become real, to take shape and take form, whether that reality is, I believe this, I don't believe this, whether that realness is getting a degree, you have like something to show for your studies, or maybe you have a lot of plane ticket stops. I don't know. Whatever is going on, Saturn is putting, the lunar eclipse is putting in the spotlight something that Saturn has been working with you over the last year and a half. And with Mercury opposite Saturn, this might be a week that really demands that you stand up for something. You step into a role, you really stand behind your beliefs, you get clear about, the way that you see the world, or even your role in the world. And for some Cancers, because the 9th is a space of teaching, it is for you to teach and to share your wisdom and knowledge. Don't be shy. Maybe you've earned that degree, or maybe you don't need a degree. Maybe it's really to share what you believe in, your cause, your mission, your purpose. Because the 9th is this energy of fire and the flame, and it's that fire and flame that really motivates us to really share something in the world. And again, see how this is relevant in your life, because on some level that these eclipses, the eclipse on September 17th, and of course the eclipses to come in 2025 and 6, are really talking about education, belief, writing, speaking, publishing, communication, and even travel and exploration. Leo. Leo, the sun is your planet. So the sun's in Virgo at the moment, and Virgo is your second sign. So this continues to be just a natural time in your personal astrology to focus on money, income, material stability, and security. We all have, we're humans. We need to make sure we have a shelter. We need to make sure we have some sort of currency, some sort of resource. And that's a really nuts and bolts time for you to focus on right now, Leo. Then there's this eclipse, and this eclipse is going to, the eclipse tomorrow, September 17th. It's going to be different for different Leos. For some Leos, it is very much about money, property, and assets. Whether this is your money, your property, your assets, like the house that you are buying or something that you're selling, it's just typically something, excuse me for a second, it's typically something for a value. For some Leos, this is about, it could be about money in terms of debt. It could be estate planning. I know that sounds a bit grim, but thus is life. You're looking at, planning for the future, planning for beyond, who's going to inherit something, going to your financial advisor. And for some Leos, this full moon's very emotional. Let's talk about Pisces. Pisces is your 8th sign. You have been, since March of 2023, in something called the 8th room. The 8th room, symbolically speaking, is this time in all of our lives, whether it's now, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but this is your time, Leo, for you to face yourself. This is why I said it's going to be different for every Leo. Facing yourself is different depending on who you are, because if you've been shoving all your feelings away for the last 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, Saturn in Pisces says, now's the time. We need to deal with our emotional health. We need to deal with the things that we've been holding on to, and we need to let them go. We need to transform. And you are in this time of transformation, even if the transformation is happening in a very private space, behind the scenes, or maybe in a space that you only share with those that you completely trust. The 8th room is where we go through the passage of life. We contemplate, I realize when I say the D word, we contemplate life and death. Doesn't mean, don't worry, Leo, you're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. But we sort of look at our life. We look at sort of these bigger strokes, like, why am I here? Like, is it in the time and how time is real and time is going by. And maybe we need to do something before it's too late. For some Leos, you've done a lot of work on yourself. You've really faced yourself, and it's really getting into a space of power within yourself. Because that's the thing, that the more you face yourself, the more that you shed the negative ego, because Leo is the sign of the sun, and it also talks about ego, positive ego, negative ego. The more that you shed the old you, the more that you can radiate the best parts of yourself. So this period does take you into the beginning of 2026, I know, but I wanted to sort of lay this all out because the full moon lunar eclipse tomorrow, September 17th, in a way spotlights and concretizes, makes real the work that you've been doing. Either you see the results, even if it's emotional. Maybe it's about money and property and assets and planning for the future. And you see, like, I spoke to my financial advisor. I decided to pay off some debt. I'm going to sell some property. I'm going to this or that, whatever it is for you. So that's how this eclipse could work out. But it does get into these bigger philosophical themes about the future, about community. It gets into these themes about stability, your life. Do I have enough? Do I have everything that I need? Again, these are things that are very subjective to you and your life, and it's for you to see how this eclipse is starting to play out for you and how it is part of a large story that will take you into 2025 and 6. Virgo, happy birthday, Virgo. So if it is your birthday today, tomorrow, day after, day before, it's probably going to be a big year for you. What does that mean? Typically, when an eclipse aligns with our birthday, something about the coming year is very different than the previous year. We have personal milestones and achievements. The eclipses are very often not that far behind births, marriages, moves, promotions, sort of the big things that mark the story of our life. That said, this eclipse is in Pisces, and Pisces is a relationship sign. This is your first sign, or well, I don't know if that's 100% true, but certainly it is bringing to the forefront the work around relationships since March of 2023. Don't forget, Virgo, that Saturn has been in Pisces. I'm sure you have not forgotten. Saturn has been in Pisces, your relationship sign, since March of 2023. And Saturn typically says that this is a time we need to take relationships seriously. Sometimes that means an existing relationship needs to get real. It's no longer on the fence. Two people figure it out. They're like, okay, we're going to do this. Or it's not a relationship like a romantic relationship, but it's really looking at the role of other people in your life and trying to remember that we can't do life alone. We need a sense of connection. We need to feel like we can rely on other people. We need to feel like we have somebody that can help share the burden of life with. Saturn in this place, it's very often, maybe a major relationship has come in, or maybe even sometimes a relationship has come to an end. It really depends on the person. So with this full moon in Pisces, it's making real, it's concretizing whatever has been going on behind the scenes for the last year and a half. Maybe there is an I do, maybe there is an I don't, maybe there is two people moving in, or maybe it's a need to really make some real efforts to just make more connection in general in your life. The other thing that's very interesting about this eclipse is that, well, number one, it spotlights Pisces, not Pisces, spotlights Neptune. Neptune has been in your seventh sign of relationships since 2012. I know it's a long time. So there has been this undercurrent in relationships over the last 12 years. Here's the thing about Neptune when it comes to relationships is for you to be very clear about boundaries, what is yours and what is not yours. Of course, we do things for the people that we love. We take care of them, especially if they're sick, but sometimes we overstep, or sometimes somebody takes too much from us. So there could be something about boundaries. It depends on the person in this part in this astrology. The other thing about this eclipse is that it has Mercury. Mercury governs you, opposite Saturn, and it also has Jupiter. Jupiter is a relationship planet. It also talks about your home environment, your living situation. And it says that it's possible, but with this eclipse, you've got some major decisions to make. It could be decisions about family. It could be decisions about relationship and home environment. It could be even decisions about your career and your direction. So it's a little bit capital L life for my Virgos. You will have to let me know what that means for you and how capital L life is showing up. But this is a significant eclipse, and it's really heralding a new chapter and phase that takes you into the next 2 years. Libra. So you're at the part of your personal astrology where the sun is in Virgo. It has come to the end of your personal calendar, and it's time to rest. It's time to go within. It's time to look back and to assess the previous year that you've had. You did have a solar eclipse in Libra last year, October 14th, and that has said that this is a dynamic time to be a Libra. Things are typically happening in Libra's life. You'll have to let me know. I know I've said this quite a few times already, but I can go through a list of Libra and Libra rising people that I know, including clients, and there are things that are going on. There are moves, there are marriages, there are births, there are divorces, there are this and that. There are big changes. But this is the last eclipse, the one that we will have on October 2nd of 2024. It's the last eclipse in Libra. So this is sort of coming to this end of this big phase that you've been in. And so maybe use the Virgo season to rest in advance of your birthday. You have had Venus, your planet, in Libra for the past couple of weeks. So there has been this sort of irony of, like, on one hand, you've got one foot in something new, and on the other hand, you're wrapping up something very old. The focus of the next eclipses, not the one on October 2nd, but the next eclipse series to come, which will be in Virgo Pisces, will be about health, wellness, how you take care of your body, how you take care of your life, your duties and responsibilities on a day-to-day level, and even the greater duties and responsibilities that you have to yourself, your spirit, your soul. For some Libras, it is about spirituality and sort of finding a greater sense of mission and purpose in your life. And I'm sort of looking ahead towards 2025 and 2026. This eclipse that we do have in Pisces, it does spotlight health. And you have been going through a health transit, Libra, because Saturn has been your sixth sign since March of 2023. Health runs the gamut of, I need to cut something out. It's just not working the best for me. Health can mean I just want to create positive changes in my day-to-day life. And, maybe going for a walk, getting some fresh air, maybe going to the gym. For some people, health means more. Saturn makes us feel age. It makes us feel our physicality of life and the limits sometimes of our body. This is hopefully a time when you can use Saturn to make positive changes. But I just wanted to say that with this eclipse to come, tomorrow, September 17th, it puts into the spotlight something about health and wellness, or duties and responsibilities, or your day-to-day life, or even service, and helping other people into the spotlight that's already been there since March of 2023. So it's for you to see how this is relevant in your life. With Jupiter square Saturn, I'm just going to put on my traditional astrology hat for a moment. Saturn is typically the planet you want to get ahead of. If Saturn says, do this, don't do this, it's typically a good idea to do this, not do this. And you're like, but what is do this? What's do that? Honor your limits, honor your boundaries, honor your time, honor what's not working and what needs to end. Saturn is a pretty no-nonsense planet. It says this is either imbalance or not imbalance. And hey, you are a Libra or Libra rising. So it's all about balance. So just find or re-find the balance in your life. Scorpio. So Mars is your planet, and Mars is in Cancer at the moment. And so this is a time that takes you into the beginning of November that focuses on, it could be home and family, it could be emotions, sort of the primal emotions that can come up with Mars and Cancer, like, do I have enough? Do I feel safe? Do I feel secure? Sort of the emotions that we feel like as children, that sort of sense of safety and stability and security. And for some Scorpios, it's not that. It's very much focusing on these bigger philosophical questions. What do I believe in? What do I stand for? What do I think is true? The 9th, which is Cancer for you, and where Mars is, and will be until early November, the 9th is where we make our world bigger. You can make your world bigger by going back to school, getting a degree. You can make your world bigger by getting on a plane, traveling the world. You can make your world bigger by reading everything that you can get your hands on and to sort of gain a sense of wisdom and knowledge. So that might be some of the things that you're going through. And then with, Mars is also in a place that talks about broadcast. This is a time for people to hear you, to hear what you believe in, what you stand for you to teach, even if that's more of a loose term of teaching, but it's for you to, as you are Mars ruled, to inspire and motivate people, and inspire and motivate people to make the world bigger, to seek and to explore and to search for something. Because the 9th, archetypically speaking, is also the space of the quest. We're all on some sort of quest. But of course, it's not that you have all the answers, Scorpio, but it's for you to illuminate perhaps the path and the answers for the people that are looking for that. That said, let's not forget about this eclipse. This eclipse is in Pisces. It is your 5th sign of self, the self of self-expression, creativity, talents, gifts, and abilities. And this is a lunar eclipse, the first in a series of eclipses that take you into 2026, even the beginning of 2027, that says it's a time to really take yourself and take your talents seriously. If that sounds familiar, it's because Saturn has been in this space since March of 2023. So for some Scorpios, you are really putting time and effort into your talents, into your creativity, into the things that only you can do. For some Scorpios, it's about really getting into themes about identity. Who are you? Who are you not? For some Scorpios, it's about children, whether that's literal, your literal children, having a child, starting a family, or taking the best of yourself and putting it into something. This eclipse is sort of activating these bigger themes about your life and value, and sort of what's like what's worth your time, what's not worth your time. So it's for you, Scorpio, to see how this is relevant in your life. Sagittarius. So lots going on in your astrology. You're probably thinking like, I don't want lots going on in my astrology. Let's go back to earlier this year, 2023, where not lots was happening. But why am I saying lots going on in your astrology? Because since March of 2023, that's a bigger thing. March of 2023 is when Saturn went into your fourth sign of home and family. The fourth sign, if you imagine a cross, each of these 4 points represent the four directions of your life, and you want them to be rock solid because they hold up your life. The fourth represents the base and foundation. It's home, it's family, it's your roots, it's your foundation. It's your feeling like you actually belong someplace in the world. So Saturn going to this space, of course, means different things to different people, but on a very surface level, it's time to take home and family and this part of your life, the very base and very foundation, seriously, to shore it up, to perhaps move, to start a family, to get into a serious relationship, to make changes in the household. Perhaps your parents are older, your parents need attention, perhaps your family needs attention, or maybe it's family just as a broader theme in your life and wanting to feel like you belong someplace. Saturn isn't quite done with this part of your life. It won't be fully done until the beginning of 2026. But this eclipse that we're having tomorrow, September 17th, concretizes and makes real this work or this story or the paving stones that you've been putting down since March of 2023. It's with Jupiter, your planet in the 7th sign relationships. It's really saying that because relationships is another one of the 4 corners of your life, that is also a time to look at relationships, whether that's a serious relationship, whether that's bringing a serious relationship into your life, whether it's prioritizing relationship and family in your life, and making sure that you are finding the balance between your wants, your needs, and the wants and needs of other people. This eclipse is part of a series that will take you into the next year or so, but it will play out. And I think when we get to December, end of November, December, to really see, we'll have more of a lens of what this eclipse is about. And also with the Jupiter square Saturn, the Mercury opposite Saturn, this also might be a week of major decisions, even if those decisions are within and or maybe they're real, they're concrete, but this is a time where it may be a bit capital L life for you, Sagittarius, or even Sag rising. Capricorn. So Saturn is your planet, and Saturn is really in the spotlight this week. So in a way, even though the eclipse tomorrow, September 17th, is not in Capricorn, in a way, you are in the spotlight. What's Pisces? Other than the place where we're going to have the eclipse tomorrow, Pisces is something called your 3rd sign. So for you, and the 3rd sign in general, is a space of communication, learning, education, needing to expand your mind, take your education seriously, but also to look at choice, because life is inherently about choice. Saturn in this space is for you to see what is the story that you have been building around education, around voice and communication, around learning, around choices over the last year and a half. Because with this eclipse on September 17th, it puts this work into the spotlight. And with Mercury opposite Saturn, even though Saturn is you, this might be a time when you need to get very clear about something. It could be a commitment, it could be a decision, it could be even like using your voice in a certain way. I'm going to teach a class, I'm going to use my voice in a way that it really reflects my authority. But it's for you to see how this is relevant in your own life. I realize it's a little bit subjective, but that's the thing about Pisces. And Saturn in Pisces since March 2023, it's a water sign. It's about feeling, it's about emotion, it's about prioritizing your emotions and your feelings, but it's also listening to yourself and using your voice perhaps a little bit differently than you were using back in before 2023. I think the real news, other than this eclipse tomorrow, is that eclipse in 2 weeks, because that one is in your sign of career. It's the last one that you're going to have in your 10th, your career, your public life, your duties and responsibilities on a worldly level. Your last one for another 8-9 years, but it is a big one. It sort of begins to close out a chapter where on some level you've either made changes in your professional life, or changes have been happening around you. They've been major achievements, and to see how September has been sort of laying a pathwork for that eclipse to come. Maybe you've seen stuff happening in your professional life, but when the sun gets into Libra on Sunday, September 22nd, you're really going to start to kick into this eclipse energy that's very prominent in your astrology at the moment. It's putting a focus on relationships, your home, your household, your public life, and especially with Pluto back into Capricorn, even if it's just for a few months, really wrapping up some sort of bigger story that's been present even since way back in 2008. Aquarius. So Saturn is your planet, and Saturn's in Pisces. So we are going to have tomorrow, September 17th, an eclipse in Pisces. This is our first eclipse in Pisces since 2016, 2015, 2006, 2007, 1997, 98. And I'm just using these times so you can maybe get a little temperature read for your own life, like what was going on in those times. This eclipse does highlight Pisces, which is a money sign. It's money, it's stability, it's security, it's value, it's worth, it's property, it's assets. It's your money. It's not typically other people's money. So maybe you've been thinking about how to spend it, but Pisces is a philosophical and spiritual sign, and really to like what is important with money, what is not important with money. Maybe you've been very generous, for example. Whatever has been going on in money, income, property, assets, value, and worth since March of 2023, which is when Saturn went into Pisces, is somehow coming to a head this week, perhaps next week, and maybe you need to make some sort of major decisions. These could be decisions about money and property, especially with Sun in Virgo and Mercury in Virgo over on the other side, your 8th sign. It could be money and property and assets that you share with somebody else. It could be estate planning. It could be preparing for the future. It could be dividing assets between a household, or maybe the sort of push and pull that can sometimes happen between other people when it comes to money. There is potentiality for some sort of major decision. It could be a decision that has a philosophical or spiritual root to it. It's hard when people have different ideologies or different approaches when it comes to money, and that might be a little bit of the friction point at the moment. But take note, Aquarius, of what's happening, not just because we've had Saturn in Pisces since March 2023. Take note because there will be eclipses in these spaces into 2026. So money, income, value, and worth, property, and assets will be a focal point. For some Aquariuses, it is getting into deeper emotional material, especially with the Sun in Virgo right now, especially with the eclipses to come in Virgo next year. And what I mean by that is, you get into these like, do I have enough? Am I safe? Especially with the eclipses in Virgo next year, getting into a period of life of inner examination and looking at your emotional health and wellness, for example. That said, we are coming up to another eclipse 2 weeks from now. This eclipse will be in what's called Libra. Sorry, I gotta do some quick astrology. Libra is your sign. Wait for it. It is your 9th sign of faith and wisdom and knowledge. This eclipse could be about publishing something, sharing something, teaching something. It could be travel and exploration. But it is getting to the end of a story that's been with you last year, because we had our first eclipse in this space in 2023, and needing to really share what you believe in and what you stand for with the world. Finally, Pisces. So Pisces, you are in the spotlight. So we have our first eclipse in Pisces, and this will be tomorrow, September 17th. So if you are born on, let's say, March 14th, March 15th, March 13th, this eclipse has you in the spotlight. It's for you to see how this is relevant to your life. So for some Pisces, to have an eclipse on the sun, it says that this is the beginning of a dynamic chapter of your life. Traditionally, eclipses are event-oriented. Lunar eclipses typically are more provocative. I was I was reading about who won Emmys, and I was sort of looking at astrology just as an armchair level, and somebody that won an Emmy for The Bear is a Pisces, and he had the lunar eclipse on his sun. I'm like, well, there you go. That's where you can see how in a lunar eclipse can even talk about an achievement, a recognition. But that said, Pisces, life may be a little bit capital L life at the moment, even if you did win an Emmy, or maybe you didn't win an Emmy. But that said, you do continue to have Saturn in your sign. This continues to be a time for you to really get your ducks in a row, metaphorically speaking, for you to take steps up, to take on duties and responsibilities, for you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. I know it doesn't sound fun. It's just life, unfortunately, at the moment. And with Jupiter also squares Saturn, that's the other thing. It's like you have to make something real. You need to make concrete decisions. And you will have also Mercury, which is a relationship planet. Also, it's a planet that talks about your home environment, your living situation, opposite Saturn. So this might be a week where you need to make a decision about your home, your household, your family. Make a decision about relationships, and this could be a start of a relationship. This could be a relationship becoming more serious. This could be a relationship not becoming serious anymore. Could be about 2 people moving in. Maybe you want to start a family, or maybe your family needs more attention right now. These are just examples, of course, but this is really the start of this increasingly dynamic time that will take you into 2025 and 6. We have our last eclipse actually in Virgo. This will be like February 20th of 2027. But by and large, these eclipses are concentrated on 2025 and 6. And especially as you get into 2025 with Uranus going to Gemini, it's another story. Life is going to start to shift and change. And so a lot of these things are like sort of in advance of these bigger shifts and changes. So maybe with Saturn in mind, you need to get very clear about some things, because Saturn in the long run is a long-term planet. It's trying to prepare you for the future. And maybe we need to be like a, I would say Boy Scout or Girl Scout, do the checklist, really be prepared, clean things out, be organized, get very sort of lean, because Saturn is like, maybe you need this, maybe you don't need this. Maybe you don't want to bring this into the next big chapter of your life. Maybe you need to redistribute your energy. Maybe you need to take more care of yourself. Again, it's for you to see how this is relevant to you. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology of, gosh, I'm almost at April, September 16th through 22nd, 2024. So again, my name is Katie Sweetman. This has been Empowering Astrology. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify. You can sign up for my newsletter. Some of you are my clients. You can book a consultation with me, like, hey, Katie, where is this eclipse in my life? Or how do I make sense of what's going on? Or even like, what's my mission and purpose? I can't tell you what your mission and purpose is, but I can see what the chart perhaps has to say about that. But I do hope that you can join me next week. I will be doing that free talk on energetic sciences on September 24th, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. It will be recorded for those that, I know we're in a lot of different time zones right now, but you can learn about energy. And even though that doesn't sound like it's related to astrology, in a way it is. So I appreciate you all, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.